Now we come to the functionality of mobility management entity or MME in the case of 4G network. The MME has a very similar functionality to the visitor location register in the 2G and the 3G. And we studied that the visitor location register is used in order to store the temporary data of a mobile station. So in the case of 4G network, the temporary data of a user equipment is stored in the MME so that the signaling load on the HSS is reduced. Now, whenever you power on your mobile, this mobile uh, identifies the E node V that has the most powerful signal, that means that which is the nearest, and then that user equipment connects to that E node V. And after connecting to that E node V, this user equipment would then register with the MME that is associated with this E node V. And this MME would then verify that this user equipment is genuine or not, and this verification procedure is called as the authentication. And for this authentication procedure, MME uses the security keys that it gets from the HSS, and using that security keys, MME performs the verification procedure of the user equipment. And once a user equipment is authenticated, it is assigned a temporary identifier that is used from then onwards for the communication between the user equipment and the MME. So MME stores the temporary data, which is also called as the context of a user equipment. And part of that data is actually downloaded from the HSS. And as long as user equipment is in the area of a MME, that temporary data of this user equipment is handled by this MME. But when this user equipment moves to the area of another MME, then that temporary data would be transferred to that other MME and it would be deleted from the current MME. And MME is also responsible for the establishment and management of the EPS bearer. So whenever a user equipment registers itself with the 4G network, it is assigned a default EPS bearer. And if, for example, that user equipment also wants to make a video call, then an additional EPS bearer would be assigned for that call. And so these EPS bearers are established and they are managed by the MME or the mobility management entity. Now, as the part of the establishment of the EPS bearer, the MME chooses the PDN gateway and the serving gateway through which this EPS bearer is passing. Now, the coverage area of a 4G network is divided into tracking areas, and in one tracking area normally there are more than one E node Bs. And when a user equipment is in the idle mode, that means a user equipment is not in the call with the network, then the network knows the location of the user equipment to the level of the tracking area. That means that, for example, a user equipment is located in the tracking area number 2, but it does not know that in which cell exactly this user equipment is currently located. So if there is an incoming call for this user equipment, then the network would page all the user equipments that are there in this tracking area about this incoming call, and when this user equipment receives that page message, it would respond telling the network that this is his location, and then the network is going to connect the call with this user equipment. But in the idle mode, the location of a user equipment is known to the level of the tracking area. So when a user equipment is in the coverage area of an MME, the MME knows that in which tracking area in its coverage area a particular user equipment is located.